Hello and welcome everyone. Due to personal reasons, the release of this video is many weeks late, rather than my intended immediate release. While relevant at the time of production, time has certainly passed when this is finally released. It's because you all wanted to see it is why it's getting released. Without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome everyone to today's episode of Aviation 101. I am Matt from Midget HD and I'll be going through the history and my thoughts regarding Air New Zealand cutting their London service while opting for a direct flight to New York. I appreciate you tuning into this video and I hope you watch until the end, and I would like to hear your thoughts whether you think I should continue this type of video. Also, if you have any topic ideas, please let me know. For 37 years, Air New Zealand has been the major and at times only single connection for the United Kingdom's most distant colony and Commonwealth member. Originally operating to London's Gatwick in 1982, Air New Zealand won a precious slot at the larger Heathrow port in 1994, which shortened commuter times into central London and opened the door to one of the world's largest connection hubs. So why is it that they are now exiting such a truly big market in favour of another North American destination? Here's a little history of Air New Zealand's London ties. During 1967, 2 years after the name change from Tasman Empire Airways Limited, or TEAL, Air New Zealand adopted a new partner in the form of British Overseas Airways Corporation, or BOAC, that would operate flights on behalf of Air New Zealand's connecting flight out of Los Angeles, which meant that even though Air New Zealand had an office in London, they unofficially operated a service into the major hub. The 1960s allowed Air New Zealand to integrate itself into the US market and strengthen itself in the 1970s. With airlines expanding rapidly across the globe, there was a need for the national carrier to expand further and launch its own flights, utilizing its own brand new 747-200s delivered in 1981 that replaced the older DC-10s to operate the Los Angeles to London trunk route, thus beginning their era of transatlantic service. What followed was the introduction of an additional weekly flight via Dallas-Fort Worth in 1988 and a Frankfurt service via Los Angeles in 1987. The former only lasting 18 months, while the latter lasting up until 2001, around the same time as the collapse of Ansett, which Air New Zealand had recently taken a 100% stake in, and then the renationalisation of the airline. An important moment in Air New Zealand's history was flying Queen Elizabeth II from London to Auckland in November 1995 aboard NZ-1, a Boeing 747-400 at the time. This was the first ever instance of a reigning British monarch flying on a routine commercial service. October 2006 saw an increase in London capacity as Air New Zealand opened up flights via Hong Kong 5 to 7 times weekly, utilising a Boeing 777-200ER. This seemed a little ambitious, and within 6.5 years the route was discontinued and became the last airline to circumnavigate the globe with routine commercial service. I have flown in each direction between Hong Kong and London on 2 separate occasions, and I found the experience quite nice, and it especially helps when travelling on a staff standby ticket. The CEO at the time, Rob Fife, stated that the Hong Kong-London route would not become profitable in the foreseeable future. During the same time, while there was notable profit and passenger decline between Los Angeles and London, there was the thought that the newly introduced Boeing 777-300ERs that would eventually replace the 747s could stagnate the decline and allow Air New Zealand to regain its foothold by the introduction of an upgraded service, including the renowned Skycouch. Unfortunately, while passenger numbers remained somewhat steady since 2013 and cargo loads were good, the route became less and less viable and no positive exit could be seen from this, and on 23 October 2019 the decision was finalised and released to the public to end London service in October of 2020. So let's get into how such a highly regarded, award-winning product on a vibrant route network could make the tough decision of letting London go. The beginning of the reasons behind the axing of the flagship route was initialised by a statement from acting CEO Jeff McDowell, who bluntly described it saying, "Market dynamics have affected performance in recent years." Most could work out the reasoning behind the decision immediately, but were still very much shocked and upset from the news as profits are still positive. This also came as a surprise to Air New Zealand's 130, soon-to-be disestablished London-based crew who only found out when the public did. I was in disbelief myself and didn't think that a new US route in the form of Auckland to New York would be the downfall of their London service, despite the hotly contested transatlantic market. As you could tell by history, New Zealand's close ties with the United Kingdom allowed the airline to hold on up until the stage we are at now, but their intimate connection will soon be severed which has been described as an incredibly poor choice. McDowell claimed that Air New Zealand lacks home market advantages and scale of the North American and European airlines were up against, as it's operated as a fifth freedom route. While there are big names across the Atlantic, I think this is due to increased pressure from carriers who stop over in the Middle East, who not only provide but promote excellent service and at times is seen as the best method of European travel from the Pacific. The fact is that there is a continued growth in demand between Oceania and Europe. However, the huge presence of the Middle Eastern market over the last decade has swayed even the most stable operators. Another point to be made is that the fact that only 7% of people travelling on Air New Zealand from Auckland or London to Los Angeles continued onwards until the flight number terminated, regardless of connecting the same day. This by no means says passenger numbers are low, but rather indicates the preference of travellers wanting to start or end their journey in Los Angeles. Air New Zealand has recognised that the shift in passenger numbers between airlines and the transfer situation for NZ2 at Los Angeles is terrible in itself, with 3 security checks and checking in just to transfer for the flight's continuation to London all within 2 hours at a mess of an airport. No doubt passenger frustrations were high with those directly connecting to the same flight, but that in itself is hardly a reasonable explanation as to why London was pulled. Could this be done to profit? Yes and no. I say no because Air New Zealand is still making a decent profit off the route, especially with cargo, and there will always be those loyal customers and staff that like this route, whether it's because of personal ties to the UK or because it's literally on the other side of the world where you can get away to. Also, Air New Zealand has been able to entice new European customers and made strides in gaining popularity in the region. Why I also say yes is because of 2 things. 1, the profit margins over the years has shrunk as more competition enters the market, and 2, it was revealed that 2/3 of all revenue by the airline's London team is unrelated to its transatlantic flight, so even when Air New Zealand pulls out in 2020, they will retain sales, marketing and cargo presence there, meaning they will continue to make significant backdoor gains. They will also have 12 connection options via Asia and the Americas, which gives customers the option to still earn member points with Air New Zealand, even to London. In conclusion, I don't believe the right decision has been made, as it loses a massive market and a destination that holds cultural and historical significance that is firmly supported by most New Zealanders and British alike. Of course, Air New Zealand wanted to remain flying to London, and there will come a day when they will return, and I believe it will be very soon. There is the possibility of freeing up an aircraft by going via their new destination of Newark instead of Los Angeles, or even utilising the brand new ultra-long-range aircraft offered by Airbus in the form of the A350 and Boeing in the form of the 777X flying direct. This will be a few years down the line, but certainly earlier than what is currently expected. On a personal level, the London service allowed me to keep travel costs down while visiting my family in England, which I regularly do through the use of a staff ticket, even though I will be a standby passenger. With this information, I'm very interested to hear your thoughts in the comments on whether Air New Zealand made the right decision, and if or when they will return. Finally, on to the other part of the announcement, which is the company's expansion in North America and opening up direct flights to the US East Coast, building on their partnership with United Airlines at their New York hub of Newark. This is on the back of a rapidly expanding US network, which includes non-stop flights to Chicago, which commenced in October 2018. This route was added at the expense of the Los Angeles to London route, as Jeff McDowell commented that they want to focus on their faster growing markets. As Air New Zealand's 6th US destination and longest in terms of distance, flown at 14,178 kilometres, 5th longest in the world behind Singapore Airlines' Newark to Singapore, Qatar Airways' Doha to Auckland, Qantas' London to Perth, and Emirates' Dubai to Auckland, the aim for direct flights to popular destinations is certainly on the mind of Air New Zealand management, as they say they perform at their strongest when they fly directly from Auckland. NZ1 and NZ2 is regarded as their flagship flight numbers, and this new service will assume this role 3 times weekly, and the Los Angeles flight numbers will receive a change. As part of a strategic decision, this is a very smart move to fly directly to the US East Coast, and cutting 3 hours of travel time via connecting ports, allowing a more seamless, uninterrupted experience. Beginning in October 2020, when they pull out of London, load projections are looking highly positive if we're to take into account the amazing success of their Chicago route, and it increases the already large cargo influence between the 2 countries, which Air New Zealand takes pride in. This route alone is seen as a big boost in strengthening trust and relations between Air New Zealand and Americans, which may help to influence the populace away from using other airlines at other ports to travel to New Zealand. Well, that's the news and my thoughts regarding Air New Zealand cutting their Los Angeles to London flight and adding Auckland to Newark. Thank you for watching the first episode of Aviation 101, and I hope you enjoyed. See you later.